Us versus them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
All right, welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today. Thank you so much for joining us here on this wonderful Monday afternoon. We're live here on WYSL. Give us a call if you want to participate in the show, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000 on this wonderful Halloween day. Yeah, happy Halloween, folks. Or leave your comments online. We're streaming on the Free Solution Facebook page, Free Solution YouTube channel, the Kevin Wilson page, and the Free Solution group too, on there too, and Kevin Wilson Twitter. We're all over the place. And so today, the title of the show, for those of you watching online, I see we already got a couple folks on. Hi, Shelly. Thank you for joining us, Shelly, on YouTube. And the topic of today's show is, can politicians fix the problems they promise to, right? Again, we're a free solution. We want to talk about solutions on the show. And my intention until, my son got sick last week was to spend more time diving into the debate at the gubernatorial level, the Lee Zeldin, Kathy Hochul debate. And I still want to do that too. But I want to talk about, the promises that politicians make and whether or not they're able to fulfill those with the solutions that they're presenting, or if they're presenting solutions at all. Because sometimes folks are just throwing out, we're going to fix crime, we're going to fix the economy. Okay, how specifically are you going to fix those things? And that's where we really dive into, like, is this person for real? Are they really going to make your life better if you cast your vote for them, give them a little bit of power? That's what we want to dive into today. And if you haven't watched it, by the way, so there's a debate between Governor Kathy Hochul and Congressman Lee Zeldin, both running for governor of New York State. And watch the debate, but also make sure you watch Larry Sharp's response to the debate too. Of course, Larry on almost every Tuesday here on A Free Solution, but he did a great response to the debate. It's witty, it's substantive. He talks policy. He addresses like the shortcoming of the policy that ends up happening in the debate too. Because with these debates, the tough part is and a lot of times these politicians, for better or worse, they don't have much time to really answer. So a lot of times they end up getting graded on, like, how pithy they are, and not whether or not the policies that they're presenting are substantive, whether or not it's truthful, whether or not it's actually going to address the problems of New Yorkers. Sometimes they'll get into it, but they don't have long to respond to these things. And they'll give you some vague answers. They'll signal to the tribes that they're trying to signal to. The Democrats signal to the Democrats, Republicans signal to the Republicans. And in us, policy nerds, folks like the libertarians who are looking for something like, hey, like, how are we actually going to fix this problem? We know this is a thing here. What are we going to do about it? And are we able to do something real without taking away our liberty, right? Because that's always the big thing. Like, you can probably say, hey, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, but if you're going to do that while being a dictator, that's a problem. So to that end, I want to jump in on some of these things in the debate, right? Like, we know that Governor Cuomo and then later Governor Kathy Hochul used emergency powers in New York State, especially Hochul, well beyond when it was appropriate to enforce COVID policies. And we talked about a couple weeks ago now, the policies that New York State did in regard to mandating vaccines probably went too far. They went ahead of the evidence that they had and mandated policies when it may not have made sense. At least the evidence at the time didn't make sense to mandate those policies on healthcare workers and in other environments too, in terms of requiring vaccines with the justification of preventing transmission. There may be some evidence that that's the case, but when those policies were made, it wasn't entirely clear from the actual scientific evidence available that that's what was going to happen, is that you would prevent transmission through vaccines. And right now, even still, the evidence is a bit murky, right? It seems to be good at protecting you and good at preventing serious illness, sure. But, the preventing illness from other people, a little bit less clear. And when you're going to take away someone's liberty, when you're going to take away someone's choice, it's important to do that. So Kathy Hochul, again, using her policies and extending the undemocratic power of Governor Cuomo in response to a pandemic emergency, well beyond when it was appropriate, doing things like keeping schools restricted longer than necessary, doing things like keeping public spaces restricted longer than necessary. It's it's a problem. It's something that like we keep doing in this country. We keep pushing more and more towards unitary executive control. And part of my worry for Lee Zeldin is if he wins, and I don't know that he has an actual shot of winning. I know some of the polls, some of them look like they're a little bit closer. Sometimes that'll happen, and he might have a better shot because Kathy Hochul hasn't won a statewide election before. But I really don't think this is it. I don't think that he's going to win. I don't think he has a shot, and but we'll see. If he does win, though, is he going to fix things? Is he going to do things better? Is he going to be more effective? And in that regard, the inclination of someone in the political class to try to unilaterally solve these problems, to not allow people to either do their own thing or to work through the legislature to solve problems, that same instinct is there with him too, because he immediately starts saying, day one, as soon as I get in, we're going to declare a crime emergency. We're going to change all these laws. We're going to do all this stuff. And in doing so, ends up stripping away a lot of rights and protections of the people in New York State. Now, does that mean that we don't take crime seriously? Does that mean that someone like me isn't saying, yeah, there isn't a crime problem? Yeah, there is. But how we deal with that is important, because if we're dealing with it in a way that encourages the governor of a state to make unilateral policy, to single-handedly, through executive orders or similar means, strip away the liberty of the state, to change the laws of the state, to make these massive policy change outside of the legislature or outside the consultation of the people of New York. That's a big deal. And winning an election is not a mandate. That in and of itself doesn't mean you get to do whatever you want. Doesn't mean at the state level, doesn't mean it at the presidential level. Like, we can't allow this type of thing to keep happening. We as the people need to find ways to get the power closer to us. I don't mean doing everything through the legislature either. I mean mostly like it should be retained with us. But he wants to declare a crime emergency on some of this stuff. He wants to, mostly around the bail law stuff, right? Which I've done, gosh, so many shows on this now. I'm not gonna spend the whole show talking about the bail law stuff, but immediately repeal. He calls it cashless bail. It's not exactly what it is, but it's salient, right? It sounds good with with folks who are understandably terrified of rising crime in their communities and want someone to do something about it quickly. And our government has been ineffectual in doing that. Not only ineffectual, like when I made the title for the show, I was thinking a lot about Kathy Hochul too, who promises like, oh well, once we have these gun laws in place, everything's gonna get safer. We're all gonna be good. Like, we just need to do something about the guns. When we take the guns away, like, the murders are gonna stop. Well, it hasn't stopped. It's not going to stop. It doesn't solve the fundamental issues. Both Hochul and Zeldin are promising you the same thing. Just give me a little bit more power. Just trust me to act in your best interest, even at the cost of your liberty, and I will keep you safe. No, that's not what's going to happen. That's what we're going to get is we're going to trade our essential liberty for temporary safety. To misquote Ben Franklin here, we're going to end up giving away our liberty permanently for the illusion of safety, for security theater. And it depends on what flavor of that do you want. Do you want the flavor of that where your guns are taken away, or do you want the flavor of that where if you get accused of a crime, you have no rights and you might be detained indefinitely, even if you have done nothing wrong? Which of those do you want? I want neither. We don't have to make either of those choices. Unfortunately, there's a good chance that one or the other is probably going to be the choice in government, but we don't have to make that choice. We don't have to consent to either of those two bad choices. And unfortunately, there's a mindset that like, oh, we've got to pick the lesser. We've got to be more defensive. We've got to pick the lesser of two evils. No, we don't. There are other choices not on the ballot, unfortunately, because of Governor Cuomo's ridiculous change in election law. But there are other folks running. Well, Larry Sharp for one, but also I know that Howie Hawkins is running too on the Green Party, if that's your thing. Not my thing. But Larry Sharp is running on for governor as a write-in candidate. You don't have to pick one of the other two on the ballot just because the Democrats and the Republicans collude together to steal our money, give it to themselves, and keep other people off the ballot. And that's exactly what happened here. Anyway, we'll keep talking about like the promises that politicians make and whether or not they can actually fulfill the essence of that promise. Can they fulfill the essence of the promise to keep us safe? Are their policies actually going to do that? Thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We're going to be back in just a few minutes. Give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Be back in just a few. Talk to you soon.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Hey, this is Kevin Wilson, host of A Free Solution. You ever needed a tool for just one project, but didn't want to spend the cash for something you'd use just once or twice? Well, there's a new tool library in Rochester where you can borrow just the thing you need instead of buying a new one. It's called the Tool Shed from the Southeast Area Coalition, and membership starts at just $25 a year. Use it for home projects or to support your business. Learn more and become a member at seektoolshed.org. That's SEAC toolshed.org.
Only available in the WISL store at WISL1040.com. Official top quality tees, hoodies, and coffee mugs depicting the colorful WISL logo or the already famous Mount Worstmore line of merch depicting Mount Rushmore style are for worst presidents. Of course, you know who is front and center up on that mountain. WISL official items make perfect gifts, or they're a great way for you to make a personal statement. Locally produced and sold only in the WISL store at WISL1040.com.
A free solution on the WYSL stations.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thanks again for joining us here on this wonderful Monday afternoon. Happy Halloween, folks. Give us a call if you want to participate in the show, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Or leave your comments online. Got a few comments from Shelly. I'll read off a couple of those comments and questions. Shelly says, prohibition brought nothing but violence. Her prohibition of everything is going to end in violence. I don't want to end in violence, but history is a great teacher. Yeah, again, like in prohibiting something like guns too, right? Like it creates a lot of incentives for black markets to emerge and for trafficking and those things to emerge. And the enforcement and kind of escalation of markets in a highly restricted good combined with state violence, combined with competitors, tends to lead to violence. Again, the biggest rise in crimes that we've seen in the 20th century, the biggest two jumps in crime that we saw were alcohol prohibition and the start of the war on drugs. It didn't make us safer. It increased violence. And then a big drop in crime that we got was after we ended prohibition, because suddenly there wasn't a big market for violent gangsters to make a bunch of money selling alcohol in the black market. It went away. suddenly the incentives to participate in that violent underground market disappeared. And yeah, also Shelley has asked about one of the ballot propositions, so, and I think the wording is vague, that they, would be people claiming what they, it's basically an environmental bond in New York State. So I'll just quickly do this. I might do more of this on Wednesday, but it is the Clean Water, Clean Air, and Green Jobs Environmental Bond Act of 2022 to address and combat the impact of climate change and damage to the environment. The Clean Water, Clean Air, and Green Jobs Environmental Bond Act of 2022 authorizes the sale of state bonds up to $4.2 billion to fund environmental protection, natural restoration, resiliency, and clean energy projects. Shall the environmental bond of 2022 be approved? And there's the whole thing on it on the New York State website too. Again, not going to go into my general inclination is no, I don't want to allow the government to spend another $4 billion dollars. That's a lot of money. 4,200,000,000. It's a lot of money, and it's not entirely clear what these would go to. And yeah, I don't trust them to do that. And again, anytime like there's a bond, like a bond is just debt. Like that's what that means. When governments issue bonds, they're putting out something that banks or individuals can buy at a fixed interest rate. Sometimes it's variable, but usually a fixed interest rate over a certain period of time. It's debt. That's all it is. It's debt. They're getting a loan and piecing out the loan to different investors, again, either individuals or banks or corporations or whatever, right? So can New York State take on $4 billion in debt for environmental projects? Supposedly it's, stuff to protect coastlines and whatnot. Devil's in the details and all this stuff. Could it be done through the regular appropriations process? Maybe. But I said, I'll do the full show on this, or at least more of this on Wednesday. I want to dig into that a bit more. Right now, I'm strongly leaning towards no on that, though. So anyway, yeah, I want to get back to the topic at hand again. Can politicians fulfill the promises that they're making to you, right? And what in the process of fulfilling those promises, can they keep you safe? Can they boost the economy? Can they help do whatever, right? Does it compromise our liberty along the way? And then there's some like. Unfortunately, I'm getting pounded with these ads from LaRon Singletary's running for Congress, and maybe I should invite him on the show to have him flesh out these policies. But pounding out like we're gonna stop crime, or Joe Morelli is causing crime to rise in our district, right? And I'm like, well, okay, well, what are you gonna do about that from Congress? I don't know. Like it just kind of seems like a vague like Joe Morelli didn't cause crime in Rochester. Crime's going up for a lot of reasons. State, national, local policies, but I don't know that that's getting fixed. I don't know that he's pitching anything that scares me either. So like maybe there's a good plan in there or not. I'll have to invite him on. But in terms of Zeldin's proposals though, like these ones like frighten me a little bit more because again, although I'm concerned about crime, and again, look at Larry Sharp's responses to some of this stuff. And some actual policy solutions. But in terms of like how he's going to address this, he wants to, remove district attorneys who don't enforce the law. I mean, district attorneys are elected positions. He says that, on day one, he wants to remove the Manhattan DA. But in order to do that, like it's a pretty serious thing for a governor to initiate the process of removing another elected official, or essentially overturning an election, the will of the people of that particular place. In order to do that. So if you're going to do it, there needs to be a specific charge of crime in that situation. There needs to be a specific, like, this person broke the law in this way. And I think there's plenty to criticize about the Manhattan DA. There's plenty to criticize about many DAs across New York State. But it's a pretty serious thing for the governor to start to do that. And then what kind of precedent does that set, too? So I live in Monroe County. Sandra Dorley is our DA. If Governor Hochul decided that she didn't like the DA anymore. It's should the governor be able to remove her? No, of course not. Again, we for better or worse, we elected this DA, and if the people of our county don't like that person, then we should overturn her in the next election, unless she's being charged with a crime that makes her ineligible for office. That's a different thing. And getting a couple comments from that, from Joseph, who says removing an elected official shouldn't be done unless they're being impeached. Yeah, again, if they've actually committed a crime, yeah, okay, like do that, go through the whole process of accusing them of a crime, grand jury if you're going to do that sort of thing, and then if there is a guilty conviction and they're ineligible for office, yeah, I mean that's kind of what happened with the mayor of Rochester, right? I think she officially resigned, but she could have been removed because of the accusations and the deal that she made. So that's something that could have happened if it went down that road. But it shouldn't be just the political whim of whoever's in power, unless he has a specific crime to accuse the DA of. Tim O'Connor says you can't unilaterally remove a DA. It's a totally bogus political promise. Yeah, and Tim, that's kind of my point, right? Like 100%, Tim, you're right on the money on this. It's a promise made in order to, like, again, the underlying promise is we're going to keep you safe, right? Again, removing the DA does not actually immediately keep the people of Manhattan safer, right? They have a lot of issues with crime that are very complex. Like Kathy Hochul's not wrong to say like this issue is complex. Now, is she going to do anything useful about it? No, but it is complex. And Lee Zeldin is wanting to make you this nice, clean, clear promise to fix things right away. That's not how it's going to work. And don't fall for politicians of any party who are going to promise that, especially when the mechanism for doing so is going to take away our ability to have a say in local election. I mean, some of the other stuff, I'll just read off his platform too, is it amend the raise the age. Again, I don't really agree with that, but you'd have to get that through the legislature to give judges more discretion with setting bail. Yeah, maybe. Again, Larry has a good plan for this. He talks about first-time offenders versus repeat offenders. I think there's some merit to discussing it that way and making adjustments. Increased penalty on looting businesses. Oh, that's just a virtue signaling about some of the riots that happened. And then keeping qualified immunity, that one kills me, right? Again, qualified immunity, for those of you who don't know, is like if you are a police officer and you are accused of violating someone's rights in some way, right? Like you hurt them, you kill them, you maim them in some way. Essentially, you can't sue them in civil court unless there's a precedent for someone suing for that exact same thing and winning. So if no one has already won a previous case, you can't win your current case. It's a totally ridiculous thing. Congress had the ability to make some moves on qualified immunity. They didn't. They totally failed on that one. It's a failure of the Supreme Court, of Congress, of the state of New York, of everyone. And we could fix this with insurance systems, but we don't. Again, and so his virtue signal of we're going to keep qualified immunity. Like, first of all, he probably doesn't have the ability to do that. And second of all, it's a bad plan anyway. It's bad to say like, yeah, you can't sue police officers if they hurt you. You should be able to do that. Like it's ridiculous to say that there shouldn't be any level of accountability. This isn't a statement about all police officers. This is a statement about if someone does something wrong, this is an additional way to ensure financial accountability as well. All right, so we're going to get to a couple more of these comments when we come back, but thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. Going to be back just a few minutes. Give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. We'll be back in just a few. Talk to you soon.
pray for the USA.
WYSL.
AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for tonight. We're looking at mostly cloudy skies, a couple of showers out there. Temperatures staying in the 50s, so kind of mild. On Tuesday, some showers in the morning, then slow clearing in the afternoon in the low 60s. Wednesday looks nice, some sunshine, 60s, closer to 70 by Thursday and Friday, and some great weather into next weekend. I'm Rich Cornelia, WYSL.
As the weather changes, it's a great time to step up to a new ride from Victor Chevrolet. Now, lease a 2022 Chevy Trailblazer LT all-wheel drive for just $239 a month for 36 months. $2,500 cash or trade required. If you need a pickup, get the versatility of a 2022 Chevy Silverado Custom LTD Crew Cab for just $399 a month for 36 months. $2,500 cash or trade at closing. And then there's the 22 Chevy Equinox all-wheel drive LT, only $229 a month for 36 months. $2,500 cash or trade equity at closing. And don't forget, Victor Chevrolet has an unbeatable pre-owned selection. Whether you drive a Chevy or not, trust your vehicle to our Chevy Certified Service Department. Come see how easy it is to do business with us. Find new roads at Victor Chevrolet, Route 96 in Victor. Visit VictorChevrolet.com. These lease deals include return USC rebate. All factory rebates, incentives, and discounts are applied. Security deposit is made. 10,000 mile allowance per year. 25 cents each additional mile. Must have leasing household. Tier 1 credit approval required. Lessee responsible for repair and maintenance. Conditions apply. Get details at dealer. Your go-to for standard of specialized business insurance coverage. MGM Associates of Rochester, now serving the region and beyond in New York. Since 1984, MGM has provided leading coverage from a wide range of carriers. Not only home, condo, boat, motorcycle, and auto, but also specialized policies for all types of businesses, including nonprofits and law firms, livery insurance, property insurance, and bonds for all needs. MGM Associates of Rochester provides auto, workers' comp, healthcare, and liability coverage. Choose from virtual appointments or good old in-office, in-person consults by appointment at our Penfield office. 5-time consecutive winner of the National Best Practices Award. MGM is proud to support veterans groups. For your personal, business, home, or professional insurance needs, meet the experienced staff at MGM Associates. Locally and proudly owned at 1745 Penfield Road in Penfield, 381-7008, or mgminsure.com. An associate of Ontario Insurance Company, 28 Canandaigua Street in Shortsville.
Youth for Christ Rochester, a youth development organization in downtown Rochester, is dedicated to changing city kids' lives through life and leadership coaching and finding their purpose and destiny in Christ. Now, in addition to our Friday night basketball and Parent Life Teen Pregnancy Support Program, we've added the Fatherhood Initiative, Summer Camp, P31 Girls, and Friday Night Lights Arts programs. To get connected or find out more, check out our Facebook page at Youth for Christ Rochester or go to yfcrochester.org/donate.
I'm Stephen Nichols. Since 1984, Nichols has been a family-operated and trusted name for home service, where we provide plumbing and electrical installation and service. Nichols service technicians are background checked, and we build our company on world-class communication. Serving Monroe County and the surrounding areas, call 585-299-3101. That's 585-299-3101. Or visit nicholsep.com. We would love to serve you in your home.
Empowering communities one relationship at a time is our commitment at Tompkins. Our customers have thrived thanks to our focus on local lending and their commitment to the customers they serve.
Tompkins helped us to finance the purchase of our beautiful new 8,000 square foot building.
Tompkins has always been there for us. We see a long relationship with Tompkins. They're good people.
Tompkins, banking, insurance, wealth. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender. Investment and insurance products are not FDIC insured, not bank guaranteed, and may lose value.
At Roberts Wesleyan University, we believe you can bring your greater story to light. To celebrate our new status as a university, you can earn our $1,000 early action grant by applying before November 15th. Start your transformation story today at roberts.edu/apply. That's roberts.edu/apply.
I'm Judge Jason Cook. I've spent my life and career in service to families in the Finger Lakes region. In my current role as Yates County Judge and acting state Supreme Court Justice, and previously as District Attorney, prosecuting criminals and making our streets safer. I was born and raised here. This is home. I'm asking for one of your 2 votes for state Supreme Court justice this year so that I can bring my decades of experience to serve you.
Vote Judge Jason Cook for state Supreme Court.
Paid for by the Friends of Judge Jason Cook.
A free solution on the WYSL stations.
All right, welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wills, your host for today. Thank you so much for joining us here on this wonderful Halloween afternoon. Give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000 if you want to participate in the show. Or leave your comments online. Got plenty of comments here. We'll start to get through some of those now. I'm going to address the comments about crime and bail reform and all that stuff first, and then I know Shelley has a question about economic policy and the Micron thing. So I definitely want to talk about that too. But first, a couple comments from Tim and Joseph. Tim says, crime is up because of government's response to COVID. It's complicated, of course. Yeah, 100%, Tim. I think that's a huge part of it, is just how our governments and other folks too responded to the COVID, but a lot of it's for sure government policy. I think that's a huge part of it. And he also says, look, no decent person wants to do with bail reform. People are innocent until proven guilty. Not being able to make bail is not a conviction. Should it be fixed? Absolutely. And Tim, I'll just qualify your response. I sort of agree with you, but I'll qualify your response. A lot of people are rightly frightened and frustrated when some folks commit a violent crime and are immediate released, right? Or are accused of a violent crime and are immediate release. Now, I talked about on the show again, the accusation is not a conviction, as Tim says, and we need to be really careful to not overcorrect for a problem that people perceive, in that eliminating the ability of people to be free before trial, right? Because again, imagine you are in that position. Someone falsely accuses you of a very serious crime, of assaulting someone, of rape, of murder, or whatever, and you know that you're innocent. You have not done anything wrong. Should that accusation mean that you're held until your trial, even if you have done nothing wrong? No, of course not. And again, with the bail system that we have now, there's still bail for certain violent crimes. There is not bail for other crimes, and it's supposed to be the least restrictive measure to get people back to court, right? It's what is going to incentivize you to actually show up for your court date, right? And sometimes it's bail, sometimes it's just an appearance ticket, sometimes it's other restrictions, and sometimes it is holding someone until trial. Again, there are some crimes that can still happen with, but people are terrified and they want something done about it. And I think that fear can drive people to forget that the government can abuse their rights and can hold people until trial, even when they're innocent. And again, imagine what that would do to your life. Like if you had to wait 6, 9, 12, 15 months for a trial, would your job keep you around? No, probably not. What happens to your family if you're incarcerated waiting for trial for that amount of time? Are they going to be okay? I don't know. Again, these are other considerations that what happens when someone does that. Or again, what happens when someone makes a mistake. And most of those folks who are out on what would have otherwise been bailable crimes could have gotten out with bail prior to this, but most of those folks aren't out committing other crimes. There's a small minority of folks who are committing frequent crimes when they're out awaiting trial. And there actually has been some movement on that. And that's part of Larry's policy too, is to kind of expand that. But there has been some movement on that to say, okay, someone accused of multiple crimes right in a row before their trial, there's more ability for judges to detain them or to set bail for them, including gun crimes too. Apparently is a thing now. If you're accused of another crime and then you're caught in possession of an illegal gun, you could be out. So better or worse, there have been some changes on that. But to that end, Joseph says, makes me wonder what Larry would do if he got elected, because he has mentioned lockdowns as being the reason to, but no matter what, criminals and thugs that are assaulting people, robbing and stealing and murdering, in some cases need to be put in jail, and I haven't heard Larry address how he's going to put people in jail. It's literally my only concern with him potentially being governor. Like in 4 years, is you have the ability to manage the police. Again, Joseph, you should definitely ask Larry about this directly. I'm not affiliated with his campaign in any way. I'm a big fan, but not affiliated with him, and I want to speak for him. And I can't speak for him, but just kind of my like general libertarian thought on that is, again, it's being accused of the crime is not being the same as being convicted of a crime, right? And we have to respect that a process needs to happen in order to take away someone's liberty, right? So we can't preemptively lock folks up based on an accusation, because I know this is going to be shocking to some of you, but sometimes the government and police, who are the enforcement arm of government, get stuff wrong. And we should be aware of that in terms of defending our own rights. You could be, again, accused of having an illegal gun when you in fact do not even have that thing, and you could go to jail. Is that right? No, of course it's not. We need to make sure that the government is 100% sure, there's not a shadow of a doubt, before it takes away your liberty for any amount of time, life, liberty, or property. Right there in the Fifth Amendment too. So again, to that, yeah, there needs to be some ability to get some immediate crime under control, but mostly it's solving the underlying issues, which, again, Larry talks about this a bunch. I talk about this a bunch too. It's not just crime; it's a bunch of things. It's not just like the immediate violence. It's a whole bunch of other things to give people hope, so they're less likely to get involved in crime. Yeah, and one more comment from Tim on Facebook before I jump over to Shelly's comment. Says, yeah, all too often people allow fear to rule their decision making. Weird society is probably as safe as it has ever been, and yet here we are. Yeah, again, and I want to dismiss it. Tim, you're right. Yeah, I want to dismiss that, like, in this particular moment, crime is rising. Like, I don't want to be dismissive of that fear, but it is also safer than it has been in a very long time overall, relative to the long span of history. But it doesn't mean we can't regress in different ways, and we shouldn't find ways to do better. But to Tim's point, I think a lot of that has to do with COVID policy, and it's not going to be a simple, easy thing to fix it. It's going to be criminal justice. It's going to be economic. It's going to be, just restoring people's liberty in different ways. And we have a lot of work to do to get there. And I don't always see the politicians that are running for office proposing those complex policy answers to actually address those problems. It ends up being at a superficial level. I will keep you safe. I will do something about crime. I will fix the economy. Okay, what? What are you going to do about those things? Specifically, what will you do about those things? How are you going to address it? And then we can evaluate those policies. I know that's not what politicians like to do, because it's a lot easier to motivate people when you either fear the other side or you accept the simple platitude. I just want to fix this thing, and I will trust that they're smart enough to fix this thing because I know the other person won't do it. But we've got to demand better. Shelly, let's get to the economic thing. Shelly on YouTube says, regarding Micron, we are told that result in 50,000 jobs. Micron is hiring 9,000 employees, which leaves 41,000 part-time, no benefits, no jobs. That is not economic growth. Yeah, see, this sort of thing happens all the time, right? And when we get these false promises from people like Hochul, from people like Cuomo, from members of Congress, from everyone, right? Like, hey, if we just spend a few $1 billion, ignore the fact that it's to my friends. I don't know about in this one, but it does happen a lot. Just a few $1 billion here and there, we're going to create thousands of jobs. It's going to be great. We're going to revive the economy in New York State, and almost every time, those job numbers do not come through. That it will be fewer jobs in New York State. Like, look at the Buffalo Billion and like the solar stuff going on in that region. Like, how much money did we spend on that for how few jobs? Like, absolutely ridiculous. Like, politicians are willing to make these big bets because it's not their money on the line. It's our money. Well, if we blow a few million, few billion here and there, well, we can always extract a little bit more from the taxpayers. I'll be fine. We'll just tax them more. It's not their money they're playing with. It's not their livelihoods that they're getting played with. It's ours. They're not the ones at risk, other than if maybe voters remember it every 4 years that they put taxpayer dollars at risk, our money at risk, to make a big bet on maybe a good economic prospect, but maybe not. That's what it is every single time. And unfortunately, again, this is a Republican and Democrat thing. Instead of working towards creating an environment that's going to allow effective economic growth, we keep getting in these cycles where we start to think that the only way at all that we can get companies to want to be here in New York State is by bribing them, by giving them a bunch of our money. And the companies will say this too, like, well, the only way I'll go to New York is if you give me a big tax break, if you give me a subsidy to build a factory here. They think that because in a way it's sort of true, because we've created an environment where it's hard to thrive without that situation. We've created a toxic, dependent relationship where we can't get out of this spiral. All right, thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. Give us a call if you want to participate in the show, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. We'll be back in just a few minutes here on A Free Solution.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
As a veteran of the United States military, I can finally get the opportunity to enjoy special events, things that we couldn't afford, thanks to VetTix. Every empty seat at a concert, a game, or a play is a missed opportunity to say thanks to a veteran and service member. We could give our veterans a special event where they too can create their own cherished memories. Visit vettix.org. Find out how you can make a difference in a veteran's life.
WYSL. Getting podcasts of your favorite WYSL shows is easier and better than ever. Use your favorite device, PC, mobile, or tablet to visit WYSL1040.com. Simply click on the podcast tab to select, listen, download, and share instantly. Works great with any wireless device. No additional apps are necessary. Podcasts of all our local shows are easier to access and play, so share them with your friends. And thanks for listening anywhere, anytime to the voice of liberty, the WYSL stations. A free solution on the WYSL stations.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thanks again for joining us here on this wonderful Monday afternoon. We're live here until 2 p.m. Give us a call if you want to participate in the show, 585-346-3000. It's 585-346-3000. Or leave your comments online. Free Solution Facebook page, Free Solution YouTube channel, Free Solution group, the Kevin Wilson page, the Kevin Wilson Twitter, wherever you're listening today. Thank you for being here. And on to a, again, related topic. Patty on Facebook says, we are creating jobs, but we have homeless essential workers right now, and the numbers are only rising. Are they going to do another flyover and bang on pots and pans again? Yeah, you remember that? They did, oh, we're going to honor essential workers by flying the jets over. Okay, I guess. The workers need affordable housing right now. Yeah, that's an interesting point, Patty. And, kind of at the end, like, what are politicians, like, trying to promise right now? Like, in relation to, like, affordable housing, like, and other things, right? Like, there's the essential workers part, right? There's particularly healthcare workers where we could do things about their certificate of need laws. We could do things about vaccine mandates. We could do things about licensing and making it easy for people to be able to learn quickly on the job, while also protecting, the rights and safety of patients too. I think it's possible to do both. So there's all sorts of things we could do. And then other essential workers, I think licensing is going to be a huge part of that. Zeldin and Hochul aren't really talking about that stuff though. And in relation to the affordable housing thing, right? Like both of them are kind of talking about like rising costs in New York, and they're both correct in identifying rising costs in New York State as a problem. But again, when we get down to like, what are people doing about that? Is Zeldin going to fix the rising costs in New York? Well, I can look at some of his policy proposals and say, well, probably not. Not in any specific way that he's pitched. He talks about making it easier to do business, but not in any specific way, other than just general. We're going to lower costs. We're going to deregulate. We're going to lower tax. Republicans promise this every time, but again, remember to ask them for specifics on this stuff, because all too often they kind of wilt on, well, what specifically are you going to do? Right? Like name me a specific thing you're going to do, and not just one, but ask for 2 or 3. See what happens. That's how you know someone's actually thinking through the policy and not just making a vague promise and hoping that you buy it long enough for them to jump in and then do absolutely nothing once elected to office. But so we got Zeldin promising lower cost. We also got Hochul on the housing issue, who wants to solve it by subsidizing everything. Like, oh, New York State's just going to dedicate a whole bunch of subsidies to that. Again, not sustainable, not good, not helpful. One of the few things that I did think Kathy Hochul did that would be helpful is to move towards restricting single-family zoning, right? Again, single-family zoning, it sounds like, oh, what, government restricting something? Is that a good thing? Well, in this case, kind of, yeah, actually, because what it does is it just says local governments can't restrict as much the type of housing that can be built in certain areas, right? So that allows for more density in certain areas, duplexes, things like that. You still have some rules in place around this stuff, but Lee Zeldin opposed that. He put out a thing back in March saying Congressman Zeldin's statement on Kathy Hochul withdrawing her proposal to eliminate single-family housing from state budget. Again, they were going to eliminate this. This probably would lower housing costs for New Yorkers because it allows for more density. It makes it easier for people to build things like ADUs, in-law suites, things like that, to allow families to be able to share resources on the single property without having to go through a whole rigmarole with the local zoning board and get variances and all this crazy stuff that drives up the cost of housing. We could have done something like just a teeny tiny bit of deregulation. Lee Zeldin opposed it. Kathy Hochul chickened out. New Yorkers are worse off. Like that. Unfortunately, that's the story of New York State. That's the story of many states, but particularly in New York State. Like, here's finally the rare opportunity for Democrats to do like a teeny tiny bit of deregulation, and the Republicans just are all over it. Don't want anything to do with it, and we end up worse off because of it. That's the unfortunate thing. And then some of the other stuff, like, are we going to solve all the problems with energy in New York State by having fracking? Well, no, probably not. It's not going to fix everything. Like it's not a bad thing to do. But no, it's not going to fix all of our problems either. We kind of need a multi-pronged approach to addressing energy issues in New York State. Fracking could help because a lot of New York State infrastructure, heating for homes and power generation is still built on natural gas until there's effective alternatives in place to address those energy needs. That's a thing you can do about it. Again, you got to make sure that you don't allow negative externalities to cause long-term damage to New York State. And that's something I think, unfortunately, a lot of Republicans like kind of gloss over. And it's worth dwelling on, though. It's worth like, hey, if there's a company extracting resources from our state, if they are causing damage to neighbors, to private property outside of the area that they're doing their extraction, that matters, right? Like those people, if they're hurt by that, it needs to be addressed. But it could be, again, could be a solution here. But making sure that we dwell on the details of how do we make sure that the rights of New Yorkers are protected in that process matters. And again, with Hochul, just again, virtue signaling to the Democratic left on environmental issues is less interested in allowing that sort of thing to happen, right? And it's more about pushing forward on solar and wind, which, we're seeing in Rochester right now, issues with the cost of power. I opted out of this, right? But there's a process. You had to opt out of going to a solar sharing agreement in Rochester. You had to write a letter and return it to them in order to not be part of this solar agreement. And a lot of those folks who are on that solar plan now are seeing their cost of their monthly electric bill just skyrocket, just going way the heck up. And for me, it's going up, but not as much as some of my friends who didn't opt out. And again, unfortunately, that's kind of par for the course for a lot of the left in New York State. Is their energy policy like we're just going to pull all of our eggs in the solar and wind basket, and the Republicans are like, no, we need to do natural gas, and we're just going to double down on that. Again, there's so many options here in New York State. There's here in Rochester. There's hydroelectric, nuclear, natural gas, solar. There's a plethora of options that could effectively make sure that we meet our energy needs here in New York State. And we're not running into the problems that they're running into in Europe or in California. Having a diversity of energy resources matters. Again, the people I see talking about this the most are people like Larry Sharp, again, who's not on the ballot, unfortunately, but he is talking about these energy issues in a way that addresses the actual complexity of the situation and doesn't assume, unlike our rulers in the Democratic and Republican, he doesn't assume that he has all the answers. I don't have all the answers on this. Most individuals do not have all the answers on all this stuff. The thing you gotta accept is that if we allow places to figure out their energy policy, to allow companies, allow individuals, allow different entities across New York State to build a complex web of sometimes overlapping and redundant energy resources to be able to effectively serve the needs of the people, we will end up better off. It doesn't need to be a top-down single policy from New York State. But going back to what I talked about at the beginning of the episode, that's the impulse of the people who rise to the top of the Democratic and Republican parties. They say, I have all the answers. Trust me. Give me all the power. Allow me to override the legislature, which is going slow. Allow me to do the thing to fix all of your problems. It is a false promise, folks. It's not going to happen. Do not give up your liberty to these folks. It's not worth it. Don't even give them the illusion of consent by voting for them. Sorry, I can't support the type of folks who are going to do that, take that sort of route, who think that they can on their own fix these problems. No, who has the answers? Not me, not you, not anyone, but a lot of us have the answers to be able to address these problems in our lives as they're specific to our circumstances, and not allowing the state to impose a one-size-fits-all solution on all of us is the way. That's the free solution. There it is. So something to keep in mind as you're doing voting next week. If you did early voting already, well, it is what it is, but something to keep in mind. Thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. Larry Sharp will be in tomorrow. I will be back on Wednesday. Have a wonderful week, folks. Take care.